Today is our first e-learning series of 2021, and we will be covering identity theft and how to protect your information. I introduced myself a moment ago, but I'll do that one more time. I'm Crystal Parker. I'm the Financial Education and Community Outreach Ambassador for the Credit Union. And I get to spend lunchtime with you, and I hope that this is an informative session for all of you today. Again, if you have any questions, you can place them in the Q&A box for us, and we will keep an eye on those and answer questions at the end of this presentation. Let's get started. Our materials for today are coming from Green Path Financial Wellness, one of our partners that is a nationwide nonprofit for financial education, and they provide tools to help people lead financially healthy lives. They provide financial assessments, housing counseling, credit report counseling, as well as debt management. Let's get started with our identity theft seminar today. So, the issue of identity theft has become so prevalent in recent years that the US government has made identity theft a federal crime. It's punishable by imprisonment of up to 2 years for general identity theft crimes. Today, we'll cover what identity theft is, including how it occurs, how thieves use your information, how to protect yourself, and what to do if you become a victim. Let's start with the basics. What is identity theft? More than 14 million people were victims of identity theft in 2018, according to Javelin Strategy and Research. Identity theft is the crime of using another person's identity, personal information, credit history, or other identifying characteristics in order to make purchases, borrow money without that person's permission. It's easy to assume that it will never happen to us, but the truth is 19 people become victims of identity theft each minute. Victims include everyone from children to teens and adults. Identity theft is scary, but we are going to help. Today, we'll arm you with the tools to fend off identity theft, as well as resources and steps to take if you do fall victim. Identity theft occurs in many different forms. There can be computer crimes, and this occurs when your data is stolen from you during your online activities. There's personal betrayal, and this occurs when a friend, relative, employee, or perhaps a stranger steals your data. There's document loss, and this occurs when you lose your wallet, your checkbook, or credit cards, or your mail and the trash has been stolen. There are also business leaks, and this occurs when your personal files are stolen and exploited from a place where you have conducted business. Now that we know what identity theft is, now we need to discuss how does it happen? People could steal and rob, perhaps your wallet, purse, or backpack. Maybe they even go on a mail dumpster drive to get your registration cards, your insurance cards, or even your mortgage statements. There can be scams that claim you're a winner. There can be corporate data breaches. And so there are so many of these days. There are also farming and phishing, which we'll discuss more. Farming is a process that steals information from unsuspecting internet users. It's a cyber attack intended to redirect a website's traffic to a different fake website. Before entering any personal information on a website, it's important to make sure it's secure. But how would we know? it would have the S, or sometimes you'll notice a lock on your web browser. There's also phishing. Phishing is a practice that online fraudsters use to phish, to catch that confidential password and financial data from the sea of internet users using email. Let's do an exercise. Here on the screen, you'll notice we have a phishing email. Who can spot what's wrong with this email? What are the red flags you'd notice that would identify to you this email is not from a trustworthy source? This is a moment you can use the chat if you'd like. Someone noticed the return email address. There's no S. We're seeing some great things. The grammar, very good. So some of the things which you're catching, some items that you should look out for when you receive emails like this would be some misspellings and typos, perhaps some strange web links, strange email addresses, a sense of urgency or very generic greeting. These would not appear in this way in a traditional professional banking email from a large corporation. How do you protect yourself? Delete these emails. Do not reply. Do not click on the attachments, and do not call any numbers listed in this email. We already have some savvy folks on this webinar today. How do thieves use your information? Once identity thieves steal your identity, some things they can do include applying for credit cards and loans in your name, withdrawing funds from your accounts, using your health insurance to obtain medical care, using your social security number to steal your tax refund, and they could sell your information on the dark web to other criminals. How do you protect yourself from these things happening? Monitor your credit report. The best place to get your credit report is annualcreditreport.com. It is the website that was set up as a result of the Fair Credit Reporting Act that states that you are entitled to receive a free copy of your credit report. This act also says that you have a right to see a copy of each of your 3 credit reports every 12 months. There is also a form you can use if you prefer to request your credit report by mail from any or all of the nationwide consumer credit reporting companies. The form can be found online at annualcreditreport.com, or you can call 877-322-8228 to receive it. Amber will put this information in the chat so that you have access to this as well. So this is a great resource for each of you. If you anticipate the need to borrow money, however, we suggest you take a look at your credit report at least 6 months prior so that you are aware if there are any errors and you have time to correct them before you apply. When you go to annualcreditreport.com, your screen should look similar to this one. Please note that only the reports are free. If you wish to obtain a copy of your scores, you still need to pay. And this is usually about $6 to $8 per credit bureau. There was a recent law put into effect that does require a lender to provide the credit score they used if they make an adverse decision in your application for credit. This includes being denied for a loan, credit card, or approved at a higher interest rate. We don't recommend applying for something knowing that you'll be denied just to get a copy of your free score, because doing so can actually hurt your credit score. When you go on annualcreditreport.com site, you'll be asked several security questions. They may be even trick questions. For example, it might say that you opened a mortgage in May of 2008 and ask the name of the lender. If you have never taken out a mortgage, the answer might be NA or not applicable. Keep in mind that these questions are meant to ensure that you are who you say you are. You have the option of getting all three reports at the same time. If you have never seen your reports, this may be a great idea. However, another option is to stagger the reports, where you would get a different report every four months. For example, maybe you get your Experian report in May, your Equifax report in September, and a TransUnion report in January. You'd then be eligible to get an Experian again in May of the following year. Doing this allows you to view your report 3 times instead of just once, and this may alert you to any fraud or identity theft faster than you would otherwise. Another big way to protect yourself is to use strong passwords. How many of you use the same password on every site you go on? But here are some good rules of thumb. Use a different password for each account, perhaps using a password manager so you don't have to remember them all. Don't just protect your accounts, protect your devices too. Use passwords on your phone and your computer. It might be easy to just pick up that phone and use it, but you're much safer if it has a passcode or password on it. And also try to use longer passphrases instead of passwords. An example here on the screen is to say, now is the time for pumpkins. I don't know about you, but I love fall. So you could use phrases of things that mean something to you. Another thing I recommend is perhaps an inspirational password. Perhaps you need to give yourself a little peace or some understanding to the people in your life, and you could say, be peaceful, and then have some additional symbols and numbers that you accompany with that. There are more ways to protect yourself. Be vigilant. Take stock. Are there ways you are currently putting yourself at risk? Or alternately, ways that you've worked to protect yourself? Steer clear of suspicious websites and links. Don't give out your personal information to a caller or through the email. Delete unknown emails and don't download attachments. Protect your personal documents. Shred them if you don't need to file them. And limit your exposure. I would also note on this that there may be times that you have a family member reach out for birthdays, social security numbers, and things like that. And if it seems strange, never hesitate to pick up the phone and ask for more information about why they are asking. Hopefully someone hasn't stolen their phone and requested that information. And then also being mindful that there seems to be an increase of extra newsletters coming that maybe you have not signed up for. And these are other attempts to get information. And rather than clicking unsubscribe to those emails that you know for a fact you did not subscribe to, just move those to your junk folder. That is another way to protect your information. What to do if you are a victim of identity theft? How will you know you've been a victim? You know, perhaps you're no longer getting your household bills in the mail. In the absence of bills, the mail could mean your personal data has been compromised and the identity thief has changed your billing address. Perhaps you're turned down for a loan or credit. If you are rejected for credit, but you know you have a history of good credit health, you may have been targeted by an identity thief. If you're approved for a loan or credit, but at a higher interest rate that could also be a sign that you've been a victim of identity theft. If you are being billed for purchases that you did not buy, perhaps invoices for purchases you didn't recognize, or if you're being billed for overdue payments on credit accounts you don't own, that's a sign you've been a victim of identity theft. Your financial accounts have transactions that appear fraudulent. If your bank, credit card, or other financial account show unauthorized transactions, those accounts may have been breached. If your tax return is rejected, if you filed your tax returns and received a rejection notice from the Internal Revenue Service, that could indicate that your return has been fraudulently filed in your name. Perhaps there are test charges that appear on your credit card statement. It's common practice for identity thieves to test that a stolen card is still active by making low-cost purchases of under $5. If the credit card is approved, the fraudster could then be on a clear path to make larger purchases in your name. So you have the right to take action and to contact the FTC and file an FTC Identity Theft Report. Your FTC Identity Theft Report helps prove to businesses that someone stole your identity, and it makes it easier to correct the problems caused by identity theft. You can create an FTC Identity Theft Report by filing a report with the FTC. Here's how filing a report helps. It acts as a declaration of your innocence. It helps start the investigation process. A police report serves as a sworn statement that you were not responsible for any crimes the thief committed using your name. If someone accuses you of a crime committed in your name, you can show them your sworn statement. Filing an identity theft report at identitytheft.gov serves a similar function. In most cases, it's an official statement about the crime. It's important to note that the FTC recommends filing an identity theft first and then having that on file when you file a police report. And Amber's already on it. She's sharing the steps from identitytheft.gov that lists the steps for filing this. You also have the right to stop creditors and debt collectors from reporting fraudulent accounts. After you give them a copy of a valid FTC identity theft report, they may not report fraudulent accounts to the credit reporting companies. Make sure you get copies of the documents related to the theft of your identity, such as your transaction records or applications for new accounts. Write to the company that has the documents and include a copy of your FTC identity theft report. You can also tell the company to give the documents to a specific law enforcement agency if they are involved. You can stop a debt collector from contacting you. In most cases, debt collectors must stop contacting you after you send them the letter telling them to stop with your FTC identity theft report. Make sure you get written information from the debt collector about the debt, including the name of the creditor and the amount that you supposedly owe. If a debt collector will, saw some chats coming through, request this in writing if they're, contacting you again. You have the right to place a one-year fraud alert on your account. The fraud alert tells creditors that they must take reasonable steps to verify who is applying for credit in your name. To place this alert, contact one of the 3 national credit bureaus. The one you contact must notify the others. When you place a 1-year fraud alert, you're also entitled to a free copy of your credit reports. You'll get a confirmation letter from each credit bureau with the instructions on how to get your free reports. You can also place a 7-year extended fraud alert on your credit report. To do this, send a copy of your FTC Identity Theft Report to each credit bureau. The extended fraud alert means potential creditors must contact you before they issue credit in your name. In your letter, be sure to give the best way for the creditor to reach you. Each credit bureau will send a letter confirming that they placed an extended fraud alert on your file. That letter will also include instructions about how to get the free copies of your credit report. You can also get the credit bureaus to remove fraudulent information from your credit report. This is called blocking. You must send them a copy of your FTC Identity Theft Report, proof of your identity, and a letter stating which information is fraudulent. Then the credit bureau must tell the relevant creditor that someone stole your identity. Creditors cannot turn fraudulent debts over to debt collectors. You can dispute fraudulent or inaccurate information on your credit report. You can do this by writing to the credit bureau. They must investigate your dispute and amend your report if you are right. You have the right to place a free credit freeze on your credit report. The freeze is called a security freeze, which is makes it less likely that an identity theft could open a new account in your name. When you report identity theft, when should you report identity theft to the police? The FTC says it's important to report identity theft to the police in these 3 cases. You know the identity thief, or you have other information that could aid the police in their investigation. An identity thief used your name in an encounter with the police. For instance, this might involve a traffic stop. Also, if a creditor, debt collector, or other affected party insists you produce a police report. In most other cases, you can report identity theft to identitytheft.gov. The FTC set up the website as a one-stop shop for reporting many types of identity theft. It also helps you to set up a recovery plan. If you decide you want to report identity theft to the police, here are the steps you can take. Go to your local police office, as well as to the police office where the fraud took place, and have this information. A copy of your FTC Identity Theft Report, a government-issued photo ID, proof of your address, such as a mortgage statement or utility bill, and any proof you have of the theft, such as a credit card statement, IRS notices, or collection notices. Tell the police someone has stolen your identity and you want to file a report. Ask them to attach your FTC complaint to the report, and then ask for a copy of the police report. You will need it to give copies to the creditors and credit bureaus as you take other steps to recover from identity theft. Some additional tips when filing the police report. With luck, filing a police report will go smoothly. You can concentrate on taking steps to recover from identity theft, but some police departments may not be fully prepared to take your report. For instance, officers may be preoccupied with other crimes and unfamiliar with how to handle identity theft. Here are some tips that can help. Be firm, but also stay calm when seeking to file that police report. Try to be flexible. The police may send you to a website to fill out a form instead of taking your information in person. Contact your state attorney general's office if the police are unable or unwilling to take your report. States may have different processes for filing a report. An attorney general's office or website may be able to provide additional details. Also, be specific when you make a police report. Give detailed information about the identity theft, such as dates accounts were opened in your name or who might have committed the fraud. And be sure to make copies of your identity theft police reports and your FTC complaint. You'll need these reports to resolve any disputes with companies where the identity thieves used your name. Bottom line, reporting identity theft to the police or the FTC is a smart step to take. It could save you time and money as you recover from identity theft. Maintain good records and follow up. Be sure to make copies of your police report and identity theft report and your FTC complaint. You'll need these as you resolve any disputes with companies where the thieves have used your name. All right, so let's review. Be familiar with the laws that protect yourself and the important information so you don't get taken advantage of. Okay, so there's the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, the FACT Act. This gives every consumer the right to obtain a free copy of your credit report from the 3 credit bureaus each year. There's the Identity Theft and Assumption Deterrence Act, and this makes identity theft a federal crime. There's also the Identity Theft Penalty Enhancement Act. This provides greater penalties for identity thieves. There's also the Fair Credit Billing Act. This gives consumers many rights dealing with billing errors. There's the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, and this applies to many of the rights under the Fair Credit Billing Act and as regards to electronic fund transfer accounts. And there's the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and this governs credit reporting agencies, the most familiar one being credit bureaus, and is designed to promote the accuracy, fairness, and the privacy of information found in consumer reports. And also there are other types of scams out there, so please be careful. All right, I see we've had some questions come through and some things in the chat, so I'm going to take a look and see what questions we have. Will HFCU have any free shredding events scheduled at the Broad Street relocation? At the moment, we don't have one scheduled, but that doesn't mean we won't schedule one, but we'll definitely make note that there is interest in having one. Are there additional questions that you have today or things that you're curious about? It is my understanding that locking your credit account should not reduce your credit score. This is just a means of protecting yourself so that people are not able to ask to apply for credit in your name. Text messages. Oh, that's a great one. So there could be fraudulent text messages coming. Interestingly, I've had some very strange texts coming through on my business phone this week, and I've had to ignore a lot of them. There's been at least 5 in the last 24 hours. If you're getting text messages from people you don't know, do not answer them. What about using Credit Karma? I get this question a lot. Credit Karma can be a resource, but to have a free copy of your credit report, Credit Karma is using your information for educational purposes, and there can be fees for using enhanced services with them. The only true place to get a free copy of your credit report is by going through annualcreditreport.com. What other questions do you have? These are great. I see that we've had some other folks getting some strange emails and text messages coming through. If you place a freeze, do you have to unlock it? You would have to remove that freeze to then begin applying for credit. Great questions, everyone. What other questions do you have? Will this recording be available? Yes, this will be available. We have been recording our webinars and uploading them to our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find it there. Great question. To unlock your credit, so the number that I shared there, that's for obtaining your copy of your credit report. And it's my understanding that to freeze and unfreeze, I believe that's done through the individual credit bureaus. But don't hold me to that one. Are there fake websites online? Absolutely, there are fake websites online. So I always encourage folks to be very careful about the websites you use. Because if you input, say, your information to purchase something on a website that tends to be a fraudulent website, you've authorized using this website. And so then it turns into some challenges financially because you've used a funny website. So definitely be careful with those. Should you reduce the amount of open accounts if they're used infrequently? I would definitely be careful with those. If you're not going to use an account, do you need it? But from a credit standpoint, also being mindful that when you close an account, if it's something that you've had for a long time, that could impact your credit score as far as like the length of your history. So we always have to be careful about what we're doing when it comes to our credit, because I always refer to it as the credit pie. There's all these different pieces that affect us, some more than others, but any decision we make to close lines of credit could have an impact. Number of years for credit report accounts, that one, each thing is different, and I am not able to speak to all of those different things specifically, but great questions, folks. Lots of great questions coming in. And I see someone is dealing with some identity theft. I go to file that FTC report so that you can work towards getting that on track. I'm not able to give you personal advice on how you can handle this, but giving you kind of an outline and some parameters. The first step is always to file that FTC complaint, that report with the FTC, so that you can follow those next steps. And the website that we shared earlier in the seminar will give you the steps to follow to work through that process. I'm sorry to hear that some have dealt with this, and I hope no one else has to deal with identity theft. It is a tough thing to have to encounter. And someone, definitely being in touch, with the right authorities to navigate these situations. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We have more seminars coming up. You can join us next month as we'll talk about some home buying experiences. In March, we'll work with one of our financial advisors to learn about some planning for the future. And there are lots of great resources, and there's even more coming up throughout the year. So stay tuned. If you are a subscriber to our emails, we'll keep you in the loop about all of these sessions coming up. And quarterly, we'll make sure we send out what's happening that particular quarter for when it comes to education. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope this was helpful for each of you, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.